Governor of Florida helped a tiny number of illegal immigrants, about 4 dozen, secure transportation to the wealthy liberal destination of Martha's Vineyard, filled with millionaires' mansions, which appointed itself a so-called sanctuary destination back in 2017.
There is a sheriff in Texas who is demanding a criminal investigation of Governor DeSantis of Florida on the grounds that he misled and mistreated those migrants that he flew up to Cape Cod. What do you make of that?
I think it's really silly. I saw that headline, and, look, we have elected sheriffs in Texas, and so sometimes you see someone who wants to make a newspaper headline. But let's be clear, there's nothing.
A common talking point seems to be emerging from top Republicans. Meanwhile, the migrants who were flown from Texas to Martha's Vineyard have filed a class action lawsuit against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, alleging they were victims of fraud. A Chicago-based migrant organization and 3 of the people who landed on the Massachusetts island accused DeSantis and his co-defendants of a, quote, premeditated, fraudulent, and illegal scheme for the sole purpose of advancing their own personal, financial, and political interests. They are seeking damages and have asked the court to block the governor from, quote, inducing immigrants to travel across state lines by fraud and misrepresentation. That comes as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis deliberately sowed confusion across 3 states yesterday about a migrant flight, keeping the White House and Delaware officials guessing the entire day. The chaos started after reports emerged that a plane carrying migrants was headed to Delaware, President Joe Biden's home state. Delaware's governor mobilized resources and community groups to receive the flight. However, it never showed up. The plane instead landed in New Jersey, just outside of New York City, where Biden was visiting for the ongoing United Nations General Assembly, but with no migrants on board. A source close to DeSantis told NBC News it was an intentional move by the governor to keep the migrants issue alive, adding, quote, he didn't tell anyone and purposefully left people in the dark. So technically, the media, the Democrats, everyone got punked. He's pretty funny, isn't he? Joining us now, member of the New York Times editorial board, Mara Gay. Mara, it's very hard to not become incensed about this. But again, that's another thing that Ron DeSantis wants. At the same time, it is true there is a crisis at the border. It is true both parties could do more. It is true much more can be done and should be done with the very realistic crisis at the border. But this, of course, is taking human lives, a group of human lives, people, human beings, and making them feel agony, fear, terror, and misguiding them and transporting them. It's hard to have a conversation with someone who thinks that's funny or that's okay. So how to have a conversation about this? Will this work for these Republican governors who think, wow, this is a great way to get headlines and own the libs?
Well, you said it, Mika. That's what this is about. It's about owning the libs. I mean, there's 2 separate issues, as you pointed out. There is a border crisis. It's real. I think actually the best response for the adults in the room is to kind of walk and chew gum at the same time, which is to say address that crisis, both on a humanitarian level and just from the perspective of this is a nation of laws. We do have a border. It's important to enforce that. It's important to understand the communities living on that border and what they're dealing with. That's all fine. There should be a process with which the country can move forward. It's very politically fraught. I understand that. But that is something that the Democrats and Republicans should be working on together. And at least the Democrats can come up with a plan of their own. It's been some time since we've seen that. But then separately, I mean, this is all a stunt. We know that this is a stunt. It's cruel. It's unusual. And it really has become symbolic of the larger just meanness within the Republican Party. It's just extraordinary. But of course, it's backfired in the sense that, of course, we've seen Americans in places where migrants have been shipped to who have rallied to support these individuals who have overcome great odds to come here and, by the way, are here legally. The problem is that we have these echo chambers. And so actually, it's not clear that DeSantis is going to care about what's actually happening on the ground, because his hardcore supporters are watching Fox News. They're not really looking at how people are responding with kindness, with compassion, and charitably. So this is really just a political stunt, and it's cruel and unusual.
So, Mara, let's obviously say again, this is a stunt. These are human beings in the middle of all this. Having said that, let's talk about the politics of it. And you just started to go there a little bit. I mean, I think certainly we had some polling, Morning Consult political poll earlier this morning suggested the Democrats, of course, oppose what they've seen here, and a lot of independents do as well. Republicans largely approve. And this is Ron DeSantis in what is you're right, it's owning the libs, it's about being mean, it's a base play. This is someone who's looking at 2024. And we have now heard reporting that Donald Trump is envious of this stunt because he claims that he thought of it and DeSantis stole the idea. So I guess that should frame how we think about this argument on the Republican Party. Isn't it possible that for Ron DeSantis, this is a great political play if he's looking to be their nominee?
It is a great political play for him. I mean, what a sad fact. I think that the politics of the Republican Party is just play to the base as long and as hard as you can. And that's what this is. I don't know how he's going to pivot from that it makes me think 20 years ago, compassionate conservatism of George Bush. I mean, we're living in a completely different universe, obviously. But at the end of the day, he doesn't care about the migrants. He doesn't care about a solution at the border. And I really doubt that he cares about people who are living at the border, who are American citizens, who have reasonable concerns about this. What he cares about is his own standing with the base and, of course, trying to out-Trump or out-Fox Trump. I don't know. What are we going with?
Thank you for bringing up compassionate conservatism, because this is not conservative. That's what also I don't get Mitch McConnell praising this. I don't get Republican leaders praising this. How is using Florida taxpayer dollars to transport migrants, sadism aside, out of another state, Texas, that doesn't even deal with your state, to another state? How is that in the benefit of the Florida taxpayer? All those millions of dollars. That is not conservatism. That's just waste, corruption, because it's money going to fuel your own political ambitions. This story just really gets me because it's just so damn wasteful. And on top of being sick and just sick and twisted, it's the kind of, sadistic, the frat boy that knows the hazing's going on and he just won't do anything. And he's standing in the other room, but he planned it all. It's gross.
So, I mean, Mara, we've seen DeSantis before take a position to the right of Trump in terms of the pandemic response. He's doing that again.
He's doing it again. One small silver lining here is that some of the migrants may actually end up getting better services outside of Texas and Florida than they would have gotten before. And so that, for me, I'm kind of trying to hold on to the idea that these actual human beings are arriving, it seems, in places where they are getting some more support than they would have gotten, which is surely better than somebody coming up to you, potentially committing fraud and human trafficking, with false promises.
Right, but by the grace of God, people are there on the ground who are actually practicing principles of compassion and grace, because this sick guy sure didn't care about him.
Exactly.